Good morning, everyone. It's great to be here, Premier Ford, Minister Sarkaria, Minister McCarthy, and many other MPPs, Minister here, Minister Julie Dabrusin, and other members of Parliament. I just want to say, start off, thank you for your investment in the city of Toronto, especially on public transit. The Ontario line will transform how people move across our city. Over 15 kilometers of new subway, getting hundreds of thousands of Torontonians where they need to go faster and more reliably. When completed, it will bring 230,000 more people within walking distance of transit, cut congestion on our roads, and make daily commutes shorter for families and workers across Toronto. Today, we break ground on the elevated guideway and 4 new stations in Toronto's East End. That's real progress for Thorncliffe Park, Flemington Park, and the Don Valley. Hard-working neighborhoods that have been longing for better transit. A trip downtown from Thorncliffe Park will shrink from 40 minutes to 25 minutes. Travel time from Pape and Danforth to the financial district will be cut in half. That's time back in people's lives where they could spend some time with their loved ones. This project also strengthens the entire network with connections to Line 5 and Eglinton Crosstown and more than 40 transit services. The Ontario line will ease pressures on our busiest stations and reduce crowding system-wide. And there will be good news for TTC riders at Yonge and Bloor subway station when Ontario line is done. Less crowding because 1 out of 5 riders will probably use the Pape station instead. I'm committed to working with our provincial and federal partners to deliver the transit Toronto needs. Our city is growing. Our network must grow with it. And while we build for the future, we are making transit more affordable right now. For 3 years running, we've frozen TTC fares, saving a working couple about $300 a year. Soon, our new affordable fare initiative will kick in. The more you ride, the less you pay. The fare capping program rewards riders who relied on transit the most, because after 47 rides in a month, you ride free. Next year, the threshold will drop to 40 trips. No need to scrape together money for a monthly pass when rent is due. We are also improving services today. Enhanced transit signal priority is being installed as we speak on Line 5, which means it's going to go even faster, with the first phase going live in just a couple of weeks. Faster trips, less crowding, a transit system Torontonians can count on. So for the families of Thorncliffe Park, Flemington Park, and every neighborhood along this line, this is your government investing in you. Thank you so much, Premier Ford. Let me pass it over to MP Leslie Church.
Thank you, Mayor Chow. Bonjour tout le monde. My name is Leslie Church, and I am thrilled to welcome everyone here today to the historic Davisville Yards and to my riding of Toronto St. Paul's. It's my pleasure to welcome and thank Premier Ford, Mayor Chow, Minister Sarkaria, Minister McCarthy for being here in Midtown and for your leadership on the Ontario Line project. A very special welcome to many colleagues here today, but my colleagues, Minister Julie Dabrusin, the MP for Toronto Danforth, and Rob Oliphant, the MP for Don Valley West, both of whom bring many years of service and dedication to Toronto and tireless advocacy for federal involvement in public transit. Getting Toronto moving is a priority for all Torontonians and all levels of government. The Ontario line will have an enormous impact on transit and travel across our city, and it would not be possible without buy-in from everyone here today. I am proud to be part of a government that understands the importance of transit, but that is here as a partner contributing more than $4 billion to this project. As we've seen with the recently opened Eglinton Crosstown, which connects my riding from end to end, new public transit infrastructure makes a huge difference in our daily lives. Now more than ever, our federal, provincial, and municipal governments need to team up to get big things done. That's what brings us here together today. And I couldn't be prouder to be a part of it, along with Torontonians from across this great city. With that, I would like to introduce my friend and colleague, the Minister of Environment, Climate Change and Nature, and the Member of Parliament for Toronto Danforth, the Honourable Julie Dabrusin.
Well, thank you, everyone. Bonjour à tout le monde. Je suis tellement contente d'être ici avec vous de nouveau. It's a pleasure to be here today, Premier Ford, with Mayor Chow. And thank you so much for welcoming us to your community, MP Leslie Church. Rob Oliphant, MP, as well, and we both share the fact that we both will have the Ontario line through our riding. So it's a special day for us to be here to celebrate as well. And maybe just because we're talking about celebrations, if I can also begin by wishing everyone a happy Lunar New Year, Ramadan Mubarak. It's a special time in our city right now. Look, infrastructure is key to empowering Canadians and building Canadian economic strength. Our government is focused on investing in strategic infrastructure that enhances our long-term economic growth. Modern, sustainable infrastructure reduces harmful emissions, and it supports Canadian supply chains that will help propel Canada forward as a global leader in the clean economy. We're talking about Canadian supply chains. Just a few weeks ago, we were also announcing the fact that we were building Line 2 trains. That's my subway line that I live along. Line 2 trains, this is a great example of an example where we were working together to make sure that we were getting those trains also built here in Canada, in Ontario, in Thunder Bay, in Quebec, La Pocatière. We know we have the best workers in the world right here at home. And these are all examples when we're talking about projects like these of how we can make sure that we're creating good paying jobs in our communities. In this time of uncertainty, we must seize generational opportunities. And this is an opportunity to accelerate building, deliver the housing and infrastructure projects needed to empower Canadians and drive a more innovative and prosperous economy. Again, like I said, I actually can see the construction of the Ontario line from my home. The Ontario line will cross-cut my community from top to bottom. And I see the workers doing all of the hard work to make these landmark events happen. So I really want to thank them for their hard work. When we invest in greener infrastructure like public transport, we build stronger, better connected communities and position Canada to lead in a net zero future. So I'm excited to be here today to join the Government of Ontario and City of Toronto as we celebrate progress on one of these projects. The groundbreaking of the elevated guideway and 4 stations on the new Ontario Line subway is a big step towards building a more affordable and sustainable Toronto. The federal government is supporting this project by investing more than $4 billion, the single largest public transit investment made by the federal government in the history of the Greater Toronto Area. Once completed, the Ontario Line will serve hundreds of thousands of riders every year, helping to take more cars off our congested streets and reduce carbon emissions. And look, as a member of Parliament for Toronto Danforth, as I mentioned, in Toronto's wonderful East End, I'm thrilled to see work on this important infrastructure project progressing because I know the opportunities that it will present for our community. I know how important public transit is for our community, and I'm going to be really excited to welcome all of you. When Mayor Chow talked about the shorter travel times between points, I'm also going to welcome all of those 1 in 5 riders who go to Pape and Danforth Station or other stations along the route to check out our amazing shops and restaurants in Toronto Danforth. It's one of the best parts of the city. I'm allowed to be partial when I say that. So I'm going to welcome everybody. It's an amazing opportunity to explore different parts of our city. Alors que notre population continue à grandir, il est plus important que jamais de s'assurer que nous construisons dès maintenant les infrastructures nécessaires pour garantir un avenir durable pour tous. Les transports en commun sont essentiels au bien-être d'une communauté. Les investissements dans des projets tels que la ligne métro Ontario Line renforcent les communautés en connectant les gens à leur lieu de travail, à l'éducation, aux services et les uns aux autres, tout en réduisant le coût croissant des transports. Ils réduisent les congestions routières, améliorent la productivité et nous aident à atteindre nos objectifs climatiques. So these infrastructure projects we're talking about are key to building a cleaner, more efficient future for Canadians. Together with Ontario, we want to ensure our funding dollars go further, help build communities that are inclusive, sustainable, and transit-oriented. And this is a wonderful day to celebrate the partnerships that we can have between the federal government, the province, and the city. And on that note, and talking about that wonderful partnership, I would like to welcome Minister McCarthy, who has been a wonderful partner to work alongside. Thank you.
Good morning, everyone. I am thrilled to join Premier Doug Ford, Transportation Minister Prabmeet Sarkaria, Minister Dabrusin, who's all here in her own right, but also on behalf of Gregor Robertson, the Federal Minister of Housing and Infrastructure. And she can brag about the Danforth all she wants because I'm a big fan. My parents grew up along the Danforth. And Mayor Olivia Chow, a champion for Toronto. Thank you all for joining today's celebration, because that's what it is, because we're marking yet another incredible milestone. Under Premier Ford's leadership, we are delivering the largest transit expansion in Canadian history, and we are also seizing the opportunity to build vibrant, mixed-use communities across the Greater Toronto Area. Now, before I hand things over to my great friend and colleague, Minister Sarkaria, I'm pleased to share that we are planning 2 transit-oriented communities, that's TOCs for short, at Thorncliffe Park and Cosbourne stations along the Ontario line. Now, together, our TOC projects have the potential to deliver more than 3,000 new homes, while also supporting more jobs. The proposed Thorncliffe Park and Cosbourne TOCs are just 2 of the many communities we are planning across the Greater Golden Horseshoe. In fact, our transit-oriented community program could create close to 300,000 new homes and support over 84,000 new jobs. Our 10-year capital plan is an investment in Ontario workers. With approximately 577,000 people employed in the construction sector, we are providing job certainty and providing workers across Ontario with jobs and opportunities, while building a more competitive, resilient, and self-reliant economy. And with that, I proudly turn it over to Minister Sarkaria. Thank you.
Good morning, everyone, and thank you, Minister McCarthy, for that very kind introduction. It is great to be here in Toronto with Premier Doug Ford, Minister Dabrusin, MP Oliphant, Mayor Chow, as well as Michael Lindsay and Nick Simone from Metrolinx to once again mark another milestone in the largest subway expansion in Canadian history. Under the leadership of Premier Ford, our government is on a mission to get transit built for the people who need it most, to fight gridlock and get people and goods moving, while also generating thousands of good-paying jobs for Ontario workers. Most importantly, we are delivering results. Since we opened the Eglinton Crosstown LRT, tens of thousands of Torontonians are now within walking distance of fast and reliable transit. With 25 stations right across Eglinton, it's already a busy line, carrying more than 123,000 riders each weekday and cutting commute times from Kennedy Station to Mount Dennis Station by almost 1 hour during rush hour. We've also opened the Finch West LRT, bringing rapid transit within walking distance for more than 230,000 people and carrying more than 50,000 riders each weekday through Northwest Toronto. Public transit is a key part of our government's plan to protect Ontario by building a stronger, more resilient, and self-reliant economy. That's why we are transforming the way people travel across Toronto with rapid transit commuters can depend on. We're investing in the transportation infrastructure we need to shorten commute times and drive economic growth across the region. And we're protecting Ontario today, tomorrow, and for generations to come. With that said, I'll turn it over to Premier Ford. Thank you.
Good job, bud. Thank you. Good job. Well, first of all, good morning, everyone, and it's great to be here. I'm going to run through them again. You probably heard them 100 times. Minister Sarkaria, McCarthy, and Chow, PAs Grewal, Cooper, Friend, and Smith, alongside our great ministers. And by the way, Julie, my dad grew up on the Danforth. He's a Danforth guy his whole life, and he said he was an East Ender. And I got an idea. I'm getting off script. I always get in trouble. But do you know what I miss? I miss the taste of the Danforth. So I will commit, and I'll talk to our friend, the boss there, to see if we could put money in to revitalize the taste of the Danforth. And Mayor, you aren't getting off scot-free. You put a little bit in, but we'll put a little more in. Because I remember going down there, and it was like packed, probably 500,000 people. So we'll commit to that as long as we get partnership with our other colleagues here, as well as MP Church and Rob. Where are you stuck? Where's Rob hiding? There you are. Rob, thank you so much for coming by as well, and along with the mayor and other elected officials with us today. Folks, this is a perfect example. I always say I don't give two hoots about political stripes, and I don't. This is what happens when you collaborate municipally, provincially, and federally. And yes, I'm going to buy the mayor a blue jacket instead of the orange one, but I don't care about political red. Well, I'm kind of okay, red, little red orange. I'm getting you a blue one either way. But I also want to recognize Michael Lindsay from Metrolinx. You're doing a great job, Michael, and all the industry leaders who have joined us today. I want to thank everyone from the TTC as well. As President Trump's tariffs take direct aim at the Canadian businesses and workers, our government is delivering on our plan to protect Ontario. We're building a provincial economy that is more competitive, more resilient, and more self-reliant, so we can stand up to tariffs, economic uncertainty, and anything else that comes our way. We're cutting red tape, keeping taxes and fees low, and investing in workers. Across the province, we're investing more than $223 billion in the largest plan to build in Canadian history. We're building hospitals, schools, highways, transit, bridges, all so we can connect communities and keep workers on the job. That includes $30 billion to build new highways and roads, and $70 billion in new transit to help people get out of gridlock and where they need to go faster. In the GTA, we're moving forward with major new projects like Highway 413, the Bradford Bypass, and the 401 Tunnel. In Toronto, our $73 million investment to speed up construction on the Gardiner Expressway has led to the project's completion 15 months ahead of the original schedule. And I know, Mayor, thank you for always helping us on that as well. And we're providing record support for the city, including nearly $1 billion for 55 new Line 2 subway cars, which will be built right here in Ontario by Ontario workers at Alstom in Thunder Bay, using Ontario steel and other products wherever we can. We're building the largest expansion of public transit in North America. People are already riding the Finch West LRT, and I had the pleasure of opening the brand new Eglinton Crosstown earlier this month. And work is underway on the Eglinton Crosstown West Extension, the Scarborough Subway Extension, the Yonge North Subway Extension, and of course the Ontario Line, which will be a game changer for transit in the GTA. We're also building the Hazel-McCallion Line through Mississauga and putting a tunnel down through Brampton as well. And then we're working on the Hamilton LRT as well. The Ontario Line will run more than 15 kilometers, adding 15 new subway stations in the city of Toronto, putting nearly 230,000 more people within walking distance of fast, reliable transit. Today, I'm thrilled to be here as we mark another important step forward in our historic transit expansion. Our government has broken ground on 4 new Ontario Line stations, with major work now underway on Don Valley, Flemington Park, Thorncliffe Park, and Cosburn stations. Crews have begun foundational, work on the stations, as well as a 3-kilometer stretch of raised track or elevated guideway that will connect these stations, while work also continues at the future site of Pape Station. where crews have already excavated 24,000 cubic meters. I'm going to have to ask Michael later, what is 24,000 cubic meters?
Project would fill the Sky Dome 4 times.
I love that. Fill the sky on the Rogers Center 4 times. What did you say? Sky Dome? Okay, we're living way back. Roger, you almost had me on that one. But filling the Rogers Center 4 times, that's a lot. We could use that fill to create more land, matter of fact. As we build, we're using Ontario steel, lumber, machinery, and anything else we can. So Ontario tax dollars support Ontario workers. We'll continue to make historic investments in highways, roads, and transit, and I'm proud that the province is covering over 80% of the capital construction costs on the Ontario line to date. We're going to keep cutting red tape, tackling gridlock, and attracting new jobs and investment to our province. I want to thank you, and may God bless the people of Ontario.
We will now take questions from the media. Media can come line up behind me and state their name and outlets through the microphone. Just a reminder, the format is 1 question and 1 follow-up. First reporter.
Good morning, Premier. Mark McAllister from City News. And perhaps Michael Lindsay can address this as well. Sure. The premise behind the Eglinton Crosstown from the beginning was to build the entire thing at once to try and get it done faster. We all know how that turned out. When we talk about the Ontario line and this morning's announcement to try and build elevated guideways through this eastern portion, that's another thing trying to be built at the same time as everything else along the Ontario line. What kind of guarantees can be made to Torontonians that this one is actually going to stay on time and be built without any problems compared to what happened along Line 5?
Well, I'll pass that over to Michael Lindsay.
Good morning, everyone. We've talked a lot in the last couple of weeks about the lessons that have been learned from the Eglinton Crosstown, and I can promise everybody that they're being applied directly on the subways program, not just the Ontario line, but the Yonge North extension, the subway extension to Scarborough, as well as the other elevated guideway that's already going up on Eglinton West. And anybody who drives that alignment, I trust you see just how quickly that alignment has gone up. On the Ontario line itself, I just want to stress again, there's nothing conceptual about the announcement that's being made today. If you just bear with me quickly from the southwest to the northeast, right now the tunnel boring machine is being assembled at Exhibition Station. We will start chewing earth on the Ontario line this spring. If you look at the bird's eye view drone footage of all of the southern civil stations, Queen, Moss Park, they are all now fully excavated and we are building stations in those holes. At PAPE, you're seeing the early works for probably what is the choke point for this project, the toughest thing to do, the work between PAPE and Cosburn. You have already seen the Lower Don Bridge being assembled and moved into place. This summer, you will see the other 2 bridges which will span the Don. Those spans begin to take shape, and early works and footings for the elevated guideway have already been poured, the foundations for Northern Civil Works. So thus far, the civil infrastructure work associated with this project, notwithstanding the fact that we, by design, broke apart the project in order to make it more digestible for various private sector joint ventures, is on track.
To the Premier this time, we have heard that there is going to be a brand new campaign launched called Save OSAP to try and get people behind the idea of making changes or speaking out against the changes that your government has made regarding OSAP. Just wondering if you'd be open to the idea, if you end up hearing from enough people, to perhaps scaling back the changes that you have announced at this point regarding OSAP.
Well, what we're doing was unsustainable. We're paying for everyone's education. The only place in North America that's doing that. We put $5.4 billion a year, and then we added that and topped it up to $7 billion a year. Those are staggering numbers. What I can tell you about OSAP and college universities, especially OSAP, we've added $3 billion since the previous administration. Folks, as I said before, you know, the most vulnerable are going to be taken care of. That's clear and simple. It's going to be 25%, and that puts us in the middle of the pack. That's more than British Columbia. That's more than Alberta. That's more than Saskatchewan, equal to Manitoba and other provinces across our country there. But, you know, something I'm all for investing into our colleges and universities, but we have to focus on jobs in demand, jobs of the future, STEM, healthcare, trades, tech. Those are just to name a few. And you got to understand the taxpayers are the ones paying for this. Not me, but the taxpayers are paying for education. And what they expect if you're paying for someone's education, they're going to come out and have a job that can stir the economy. That's what they are expecting when we're investing unprecedented amount of money. On top of that, the federal government also has opportunities and grants, and so do the colleges and universities. So, folks, there's money there, but I don't believe in giving money to a family that's earning $250,000 a year. The taxpayers don't believe in it, plain and simple. The people that don't have the money, I'm all for it. Take care of the students, take care of the families. But I'll tell you one thing again, the taxpayers expect the students to go through courses that are going to drive economic growth. And there's a lot of courses that don't drive economic growth. And God bless you. You do those courses, but don't expect the taxpayers to pay for it.
Hi, Premier. Matthew Bingley with Global News. I actually have a question for Michael Lindsay. Yep. Michael, you were talking about the span over the lower Don. The part that you mentioned in the summer, it's obviously a much bigger area to cover. Obviously, probably going to be a lot more complex. Will that require closing the DVP for any part of that? And what kind of schedule are you looking at for that, especially during the busy summer?
Well, here, I just want to salute the partners that we have at the City of Toronto, and Paul and his team. We'll be working closely with them to coordinate those works. Potentially is the answer to the question. You're exactly right. These are formidable works. If you think about it, we are building the Bloor Viaduct again 3 times for this project. But these are massive works. We will work with all partners to minimize disruptions to people and vehicles on the DVP.
And just one follow-up. What's the expected opening date of the Ontario line now?
So based on where civil infrastructure is at this point, we think we're still trending towards the early 2030s to be done with civil infrastructure, and then to start the testing and commissioning phase that we've all just lived through collectively in connection to Eglinton and Finch. And consistent with the lessons learned on the Eglinton Crosstown that we've been discussing over the last couple of weeks, we're trying right now to think about how we front load systems integration considerations to reduce that testing and commissioning time. Once we know more with our private partners about how that's going, as well as our partnership with the City of Toronto of managing complex areas like Pape and Cosborn, we'll be able to be even more precise.
Jeff Gray, Globe and Mail. Premier, maybe Michael, don't go too far away. You might want to weigh in on this. I just want someone to address the cost issue. I know it's been asked before, but this subway line is costing triple what the last subway line that was built in the city cost per kilometer in constant dollars. Can someone explain why costs have shot up so dramatically for building transit, and what's being done to ensure the next subway we build, the Yonge Street extension, is going to cost, some of these lessons will be learned to bring that cost down?
Well, I think Michael is pretty clear. I'll hand it to you in a second there, Michael. You learn your lessons on Eglinton. And when you say the last subway, are you talking, what subway?
The extension to Vaughan. If you look at this is $1.7 billion for 1 kilometer.
Yeah.
And Vaughan is a fraction of that, before 400 and change, something like that.
And I guess that has a lot to do with the inflation, cost of labor.
No, that's constant dollars, sir.
I'm sorry?
Dollars. There's no inflation in that. Those figures are constant dollars.
No,
so
but
there's no inflation involved.
Okay, so what are you asking?
Why does it cost 3 times to build a subway what it used to cost? Just
are you saying that, you know, here's X out in Vaughan and now we're paying a lot more? There's a cost of inflation. That's all I'm saying. There's a cost of inflation, and that's why when costs go up, we have labor, we have materials. but we're going to look at every single penny where we can find efficiencies. Maybe I didn't understand that question. Michael, maybe you can answer it better than I can.
And I'll just be clear. I'm talking about constant dollars, so I'm not talking about inflation. I've compared the costs per kilometer for these. You know very well, Michael, what I'm talking about. These two projects. Projects like this around the English-speaking world have spiraled upward in cost. Can you explain why? And what's being done to try and reduce it?
Well, if you'll permit me to go from the broad to the specific, I think even in the follow-up, there's a real important clarification there. This is not an Ontario exclusive problem. This is something that we're seeing across the English-speaking world. Our friends in the UK and Australia are all facing these types of escalations in connection to the cost of these projects. There are many different things that collectively we can do to try to control costs. One of the key ones, obviously, is to reduce the total construction time associated with these projects. That is the other thing. I know that I've given this answer in previous press conferences, whether hospitals, courthouses, correctional facilities, or transit projects, across the English-speaking world, we are seeing these construction timelines elongating, and that has a cost all of its own. I will say that what we have seen since 2021, not just us, but the private sector, in respect of the extraordinary escalations in connection to the cost of goods and labor, can't be discounted. It doesn't obviate at all our responsibility to respect taxpayers and to try to deliver this project as effectively, as efficiently as possible. But that is a real phenomenon that we're living through, not only as we start a project, but as it's in flight. And that's the last thing I'd say, sir, in answer to your question. There is no next subway project. All of these subway projects are being delivered simultaneously, which is a huge, ambitious lift by multiple levels of government in this country. It has its own capacity challenges, which add to the cost of things. So that would be the thumbnail of an answer to the question.
Hey, good morning, Barbara with QP Briefing. The federal immigration minister is in Toronto later today for an announcement regarding changes in immigration, and you have been asking for more autonomy for Ontario regarding immigration. I'm just wondering, what is it that you would like to hear in this announcement today?
Well, I'm not familiar what they're going to say. All I've been saying is we bring people over, companies train them, and then 2 years later, they have to leave. And that's my message. I mentioned to the Prime Minister that if we're putting in expense and companies are putting in expense to train people and they're working, you keep them here. And I've talked to a lot of companies. Even the other day, I talked to a company that Canadians aren't working the midnight shifts from 12 till 7. I can't say all, but they're finding it very, very difficult to hire people. They're finding it very difficult to hire people on the weekends. And there are jobs out there that are needed to run 3 shifts. So I'm not too sure what the announcement is. Maybe one of my federal colleagues know, but that was my point about saying that if we're training them, then we keep them. If they're hardworking people, that's how we grow our economy. That's how we grow our country.
Did you have the chance to meet with the minister and bring this up with her while she's in town?
I met with the Prime Minister and along with the premiers, all the premiers around the table agreed. If we're going to invest in training people, they need to stay here and continue working.
Are you going to try to meet with her today, later today?
I'm not going to meet with a Minister of Immigration. Hopefully it's going to be a great announcement.
Good morning, Premier. It's Jessica from the Trillium. Yesterday, you mentioned Ontario shipyards when you were talking about Canada's defense strategy. At the moment, shipbuilding is relatively small sector in Ontario. What are your hopes for it?
My hopes we're going to get a fair piece of the pie. You know, God bless the people of Nova Scotia. I love Premier Houston. He's my champion. God bless the people in Quebec. They're getting all the shipbuilding. We have great shipbuilders here, and all we're asking is for some crumbs, a slice of the pie. If we're going to accelerate spending on defense, and we're paying a big chunk of, the taxes in Ontario, then please give Ontario shipyards a contract, maybe work in conjunction with other shipbuilders, but this is a Team Canada build. But we need our fair share. That's my job, to fight for jobs, and just like Premier Houston and Premier Legault, And sorry, New Brunswick, Irving has a big shipyard too. I think that might be in Nova Scotia.
Thanks to follow up on that, you've announced hundreds of millions of dollars to build a shipbuilding industry in Ontario. And I'm wondering if your generosity towards that industry has anything to do with Ontario Shipyard's representation by Rubicon or the tens of thousands of donations they've given to your party in recent years.
Yeah, I don't care who donates or who doesn't around the province. I don't sit there and say, I'm going to this place. Oh, did they donate? Doesn't happen. They're a great company, a fabulous company. And we're going to do everything we can to make sure people are employed there. And that's what I'm advocating. But thank you for that question there.
Hello, Premier. Mirna Djukic for Radio-Canada. Question is actually for Michael Lindsay. If we could get more clarification about this timeline, because at first we were talking about an opening date for Ontario Line in 2031. Now we're talking about early 2030s for end of construction. Like, when do we actually expect the opening of the line?
So I'd say that one of the lessons that we learned from the Eglinton Crosstown, we were discussing at the Metrolinx board meeting last week, was increasingly speaking in respective ranges as to when service is going to arrive on these types of projects. What we've just lived through on Eglinton and Finch shows us that when civil infrastructure is complete on a complex transit project like this, we still need to test and commission the system to make sure that it works. And the hope is that all goes well. But we always have to make sure that we're ensuring safety and reliability, and that period of testing and commissioning is one that is a test by design. So I think I'm signaling to you that still the civil infrastructure of this project is complete along the same timeline. I'm just making allowances for the fact that just like we've been through on Eglinton and Finch, we're going to have to test this line with partners before we can confidently confirm what an actual service date is going to be.
All right, and just following up still on you said it's a problem for the cost escalation for all the English-speaking countries, but studies have shown that the English-speaking countries are actually kind of an outlier, that a lot of countries are able to build for less. And some of the problems they pointed to that these countries have in common is relying too much on outside firms, outside consultants, and they're not doing enough in-house work from the public bodies. So are you addressing that in any way?
So I'd say two answers to your question, which is a good one. First, we, with partners at the Ministry of Transportation, are constantly thinking about the value that we get from various private sector joint ventures and consortia that deliver with us, and we're holding them to account. And even the lessons that we're learning through Eglinton and Finch are going to condition how, from a policy perspective, we think about the next 30 years on the Ontario Line too. Second thing that I would say, I think it is absolutely true to say that we need to be very intentional about the use of third-party consultants and, in fairness to our partners on the private sector side, make sure that they are dealing with empowered decision makers who can quickly and nimbly advance the construction of these projects. And that's definitely been a big priority of mine since arriving in Rome.
Hey everyone, Aidan from Toronto today. Premier and actually Minister McCarthy, this is for you, and maybe Mr. Lindsay, if you want to put your old Infrastructure Ontario hat on. I'm just wondering if there are or have been any concerns that the World Cup could delay or impact Therma construction in any way, and whether that would, incur any costs of any municipalities or the province.
I will embrace that challenge, and I'll wear both hats at the same time. I can't speak for my good colleagues at Infrastructure Ontario on specifics of construction timeline. What I can tell people is that there is a coordinated effort amongst all parties to think about planning for the World Cup and how we ensure safe and reliable service for people who are attending matches at exhibition at the same time that we ultimately manage construction. And full credit and kudos to the City of Toronto, who has convened that conversation. It is going well. We are at the level of planning for the overlap between World Cup fixtures and Blue Jays home dates, and thinking about how we make construction sites for this project, the Ontario Line, safe and secure in known windows to allow for pedestrians and GO train traffic to flow. The same, I am sure, is true of any of the works happening down at Ontario Place.
And then unrelated follow-up for the Premier. So we have the police inspector doing the investigation into Project South. One of the things he's looking at is essentially whether municipal police services boards are kind of fit for purpose. We've seen the province take over some school boards. I'm wondering if one of the possible outcomes of this investigation is the province getting more involved in municipal police services boards.
Well, I'll tell you about police services. I have a champion beside me, Mayor Chow. I'll never forget when we were down there, we had a full complement in 2010 to 2014. The police officers, next administration came in and just axed them all. There was over 600. And I'm going to repeat what I said yesterday. When I talked to frontline officers and some other folks within the police, I said, how's Mayor Chow treating you? They said, they've never been treated better, ever. Well, sorry, Mayor, but next to Rob. But anyways, never been treated better from a mayor. And the two of them said different times, it's not this much better, it's this much better. So compliments to the mayor, compliments to Shelley Carroll. You see a lot of polls in politics. Number 2 or 3 is crime. People are concerned about crime. Even though crime is coming down in Toronto, they're still concerned about crime. They're concerned about going on the subway. They're concerned about walking out late at night. They're concerned about someone kicking their door and putting a gun to their head to get their keys. That's what they're concerned about. And again, I want to thank the mayor for increasing the police, increasing the funding, hiring more police officers. And I want to thank the province for actually paying for police college that we never did before. So we're all hands on deck, and we're going to work collaboratively with all municipalities to make sure they have a proper complement of police. I love our police. We need to support them. They're the ones you call when you're in trouble, and I'll always have their backs. But again, thank you, Mayor, for your leadership and making tough decisions on making sure we have the right amount of police. On top of that, the city has grown exponentially over the number of years, and we need the police.
Hi, Premier. Andy Takagi with the Toronto Star. You just heaped a lot of praise on Mayor Chow. We're entering a municipal election year. You've worked with her for 3 years. Would you support a re-election bid from Mayor Chow?
I'm not getting involved in the municipal election. All I can tell you, I've had a phenomenal relationship with the mayor. Anything, if there's hurdles, bumps in the road, we get on the phone, we talk to each other many times a week, and we collaborate because we both believe in making sure our city, our largest city in the country, is working well, is running well, and that's what collaboration does. When you start working against each other, that's a problem. I don't believe in that. I believe in working together, and yeah, sometimes I get heat, as I'm sure the mayor gets heat from people, but folks, it's so much better. Same with the federal government. I have an incredible relationship with the Prime Minister. We're working well together, and we're going to continue working well together because it's all about faster, quicker, immediate, making decisions, not dilly-dallying along while the Americans are trying to eat our lunch. Well, we're under attack by President Trump economically, constantly. Well, we're going to think outside the box. We're diversifying the trade. Our team's traveling around the world. The Prime Minister's around the world, building new relationships for having a diverse economy by making sure that we sell goods everywhere in the world and stop being so self-reliant on the U.S. So reliant, I should say, on the U.S. So it's good when we all work together, folks. I don't care, again, about political stripes. We're going to work together, and we're going to have this province, this country thriving like we've never thrived before.
My next question is for the mayor and also for Michael Lindsay. The Ontario line trains, if I'm not wrong, are driverless. I don't believe that there's been an agreement between the TTC and Metrolinx to operate any of those trains. Will the TTC be involved in the operation of the Ontario line?
I'm sure there will be, excuse me, TTC has operated subways for many decades and has experience to do so. I'm sure there will be conversation as to precisely who are the operators, but hopefully it would be TDC, and I'm not privy to fine details as to precisely when and how, but the so-called bedding in period, that by 2030, when the construction is finished, there would be training or testing done. And that's the most important part also, because you can have the good infrastructure, construction is done, but how you operate it, how does it work, as you see in Eglinton Crosstown, that piece is also important.
If I could just add, perhaps, the specifics of what that partnership looks like, given the technology, we will work out, just as we did for Eglinton and Finch. But I have to seize the opportunity of saying thanks to the TTC. The partnership more broadly, as we create a genuine network for the people of this region, is very, very strong. And nothing made me happier on the first day that Eglinton was operating to sit at the Kodak building at Mount Dennis and watch people getting off a Kitchener Line GO train and getting on Line 5 to access the TTC network. Those are people that otherwise would have had to have made their way down to Union Station, adding to congestion, and then fought their way back north on the TTC network. That's what these projects, the promise of these projects really is. It's an integrated network that the TTC and Metrolinx will continue to partner to deliver.
Hi, Premier Tina with City News. More than 300 businesses closed during the construction of the Eglinton Crosstown. Obviously, as construction gets underway on this line, there are already concerns about how it'll impact communities, businesses. Are you concerned about more businesses shutting down? And what specific lessons did you learn from the Crosstown that you can apply here that'll, mitigate the impacts of construction?
Well, it's always concerning when businesses have to shut down, but I understand there was compensation for those businesses, but that's what you have to do. If you want to build a transit line, unfortunately, some people are going to get hurt over X amount of period, but we will compensate them, which we did. Matter of fact, a couple of them out by Thorncliffe Parkway had very attractive offers, put it that way, and we're going to be there to support them. Again, let's go faster, quicker, immediate. Folks, let me paint a different picture than what you're hearing from the media. This is an engineering marvel that we've done in less than 6.5 years. No one that I know of, and maybe Michael could correct me, nowhere in the UK, nowhere in Europe, nowhere in North America is building a project lines this quick. It's incredible. Think of the Eglinton Crosstown. We got through that. Eglinton West is ahead of schedule. Scarborough Subway that we're building, and we're going to extend that eventually in the next round. We have the Young North Extension, bringing transit up to folks in Markham and Richmond Hill and Thornhill. And then one of the most complicated digs, the Ontario line. We're doing it all simultaneously. It's unbelievable what we're doing in such a short period of time. Anyone can poke holes nonstop. But folks, this is 3 levels of government working together, and there's going to be millions and millions of riders over a period of a year, once they all get complete. That's going to take congestion off the roads. It's going to cut down on pollution. It's going to create economic development, the likes of which we've never seen before. So yes, there's always some bumps in the road, but really look at the whole picture. It's staggering what is happening right now. Nowhere else that I know of is happening. North America, Europe, UK, probably down in all of Africa, nowhere. So it's incredible. So let's talk positive. I believe in the glass is half full, and we're doing the right thing. Just imagine if we did like the previous administration, not invest in it at all. We don't believe in that. We're also adding the Hazel McCallion line, which is incredible for the people in Mississauga and Brampton. We're starting the Hamilton LRT out in Hamilton. We did the Finch LRT. Folks, this is incredible, the work we're doing. You can talk negative all you want. I'm a positive thinker. We're getting it done. We're creating more jobs. We're creating more economic development. Those are the facts. Next question.
May I just give an example
Yeah.
about a grocery store? The Ontario line impacted on the grocery store. And this grocery store is right beside, right in the heart of a community. It's very popular, served the Muslim community. I think the Premier know what I'm talking about. The Ontario line interrupted his business. He has to close his big grocery store, and the community was very sad. He got compensated by the provincial government, I guess Metrolink, yeah. And I fast-tracked his land use so that he can get the rezoning quickly, so that he can build his new grocery store. So all is well, and he got his new grocery store. And that is two levels of government working together to protect the businesses that, because of the construction, ended up having to move. But he was very happy about the whole move, as you remember.
Oh yeah, it's a beautiful, beautiful store, and he was very, very well compensated, very well.
All right, here for another piece of what you would call negative, Premier. Sorry, it's Lorenda Redikoff with CBC News.
Lorenda, I love you guys. I do, honestly. We see each other every day, but guys, come on, go ahead. Let's get her on. Go ahead.
Okay, so there was a news release from your office back in 2019 talking about that the Ontario line was going to be delivered by 2027. Then more recently, we were talking 2031 for the opening. Now we're up to early 2030s. You say there have been lessons learned. Why should people believe that? And for Michael Lindsay, what happened?
Well, you got to look at the progression. Like I said, we're moving as quickly as possible. No one in the Western world, per se, is doing 6, 7 different lines simultaneously. Is there going to be bumps? Sure, there's going to be bumps, but this is an engineering marvel. You should actually, Michael, you should maybe bring the media on a trip and over the Don Valley, the bridges that you're doing, and in the tunnels, and keep them in the tunnels for a little bit, and they'll appreciate it. And over to you, Michael.
To answer your question directly and specifically, a couple of things have happened since 2019. The first was the COVID-19 pandemic, which, as we've already referenced, changed the way in which the private sector partners, not just in transit, but in every type of public build, thought about the challenges of building, supply chain discontinuity, inflation, etc. That is a real thing. It impacts not just the province of Ontario, but everybody who's trying to build on the public and the private side. And yeah, transportation things have happened too. In the excavation of Queen Station on the Ontario Line project, there was a moment where we found human remains, wanted to find and follow all regulatory processes that had to be followed that we have in this country associated with that. That had an impact upon the project timeline. Just like when we tunneled under Eglinton TTC Station on the Eglinton Crosstown and looked up at the 1950s built concrete box of the station and found that it had cavities in the concrete, we had to fix that unexpected problem. So without trying to be evasive, I promise, I would say that the fact that we're still tracking largely to the civil infrastructure timeline that we were talking about recently is a function of the fact that we're managing these unexpected issues as well as we can. And I'm trying to signal that at the end of all of this civil infrastructure, this is one of the key lessons learned from Eglinton, system integration, testing, making sure that we shorten that period so we get into service as fast as we can after civil infrastructure is our focus right now.
The last question will be from CTV.
I got to give, Michael, the guy's brilliant, guys. I'm telling you, I'm not blowing smoke up anyone's yin-yang here, but this guy is a champion. We are lucky to have him. And just stick around for a while, Michael, until we get all this built, because it's very hard to find talented people and straightforward and a great communicator like you, Michael. So thank you. How you doing? Yeah, I don't talk about my family. I love my family. I love my son-in-laws. They're all police officers. They put their lives on the line. So I don't get involved in that. But I just want to thank all of them for serving and protecting communities across Toronto and the GTA. I'm very, very proud of all of them. I'm proud of my daughters too. I love my daughter. I love my son-in-laws. I don't get involved in their personal business. And I appreciate everything they do. Like I appreciate every single police officer that put their lives on the line and sometimes, unfortunately, gives the ultimate sacrifice that we've seen over the years. So, folks, always support our police, never waver. And I think the world of them. The same, you know, I always pump the police. I love our firefighters, our paramedics, our correctional service folks. Anyone that does those jobs, they're all heroes.
This concludes
Yes, Jamie.
today's.
Jamie, sorry.
Mayor, let us slip. I'm wondering, Taste of Danforth.
Yes. Oh, the Taste of Danforth.
I don't know.
Yeah.
But you've been down there, Jamie, haven't you?
Taste of Danforth is a weekend of phenomenal music, great food, dancing, people coming together. Tens of thousands of people come to Taste of Danforth. Yes, the City of Toronto, through my budget, have put aside some funding to support it, and hearing the good news that the provincial government may partner with us, even better news. So let's bring it back this year, because I missed it in the last 2 years.
Yeah, no, that'd be exciting. We went down there a lot of times, and I'll tell you, it was beautiful. Remember going down there with Rob? It was like a mob scene. It was just crazy going down there, and we had a great time. I love the people in the Danforth. They're represented with a great MP. She's an absolute champion, Julie. So thank you for everything you're doing. And I guess next time I talk to your boss, I got to hit him up for a few extra dollars. It won't be much. It won't be painful, and we'll have them down. So you won't have to take the heat. I'll say it was my idea. The other thing, folks, you know, I guess I got a little bit of traction when I said about shopping. All of a sudden, some poll comes over from Yorkdale saying over 70% of the people want Yorkdale to be opened up, just like the Eaton Center. But emphasize one thing: people need holidays. They work their backs off, and they'll never be forced. So I've asked my minister to go forward and bring back some information, and we'll go from there. But I'll tell you one thing, on Family Day, Yorkdale would have been jammed. Sherway would have been jammed. Square One would have been jammed. All the malls across the province. And to make sure that they get double time and a half. They get their stat holidays, then they get time and a half. And people will never be forced to go to work, never. Or will charge the company that forces them. But on the other hand, someone making $20 an hour wants to make $50 an hour and wants to work those 8-10 hours, bring home $500, God bless them. They should have that opportunity. And then it would stimulate the economy even more. It would probably bring in excess of close to 1 million working hours across the province and contribute to our GDP and contribute to people's pocketbooks, which would be great. So we'll get back to you on that. And I just want to thank everyone. And I want to tell the media, I absolutely love you guys. I think of you at nighttime. My heart pitter patters when I see you guys. So we'll see you down at Queen's Park. You're all champions. Full disclosure, I love Jamie the most out of all you. Sorry, Jamie. And Colin's a close second when he's behaving himself. Anyways, thanks everyone. All joking aside, we appreciate our colleagues, and I just want to thank everyone. Thanks. God bless.
Thank you. This concludes today's press conference.